I need to inform you that I wasn't able to collect any question through the app. So if you have raised any question to the app and you are still here, please, this is time for your questions. We have still a few minutes. Please. As ever,
Anwaruddin Chaudhary from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh. I have a couple of questions. One, the IPSAS have been modified from the IPSAS for implementation in the European Union, I presume through a process of consultation concurrence with the IPSAS-B. By the same token, are national supreme audit institutions permitted to modify the IPSAS for application on a national level to suit local laws and regulations? My second question to the Austrian presenter is, I understand the Supreme Audit Institution is there, but who is responsible for the preparation of the financial statements based on IPSAS? Is there a clear bifurcation between the state auditing function and the accounting function, or do they both fall under the ambit of the Supreme Audit Institution? Thank you.
Sunday Adegoke from Nigeria. My question is to the last speaker. We were told that the report of PricewaterhouseCoopers indicated that some of the IPSAS will have to be reformed. I would like to know the number of those IPSAS out of the 32, the number of IPSAS to be reformed. I would like to know, because this will determine the extent of conformity of IPSAS to IPSAS. And perhaps if there's any way we can have the content of that report so that we can learn, from their recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Fickson Okonya from Uganda. And I'm very proud to be here. We are part of the international community. We want to be associated with IFAC, International Federation of Accountants. We are happy to be associated with the World Congress of Accountants. But in what we are hearing, international, not to be misunderstood, seems to be meant for certain parts. Because we are here and you are telling us you reserve the right to have your own standards. So what about Africa? Should Africa also reserve the right to have its own standards? Time and again, we are reminded by the World Bank, we are reminded by IMF, let's harmonize for purposes of comparison. But when we are here, we have IPSAS. Down in America, you still have your own standards because they are not fully compliant with IFRSs. Now, IPSAS and IFRSs are meant for who? We need that clarity. These are not the right seats. Thank you.
So, this is just, I apologize, I really apologize. Having so many questions means that the discussion was very interesting, but if you like to stay here half an hour more, we are glad to see. No problem.
Well,
one more question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ederiwo from Nigeria, Association of National Accountants of Nigeria. My question follows the last one. I'm surprised that the last speaker said there's no conflict, that IPSAS is legally recognized. IPSAS is legally recognized. I'm wondering whether APSAS would also be, that's African version of it. Because as it is, we are dividing up. We thought we are going to have an international standard, but at the moment, we have regional standards. Are we going to have OAU or African standard? And how do we reconcile all of this?
So who's going first, answering? So many questions, so who's going first? Alexander.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think it's clear, and I believe I can understand the concerns. But as I said, we don't know of any national implementation program that has implemented IPSASs in full. In that sense, at least most of the national accruals reforms we know of, they have always implemented some sort of a national interpretation of IPSASs, IPSAS remaining, of course, the international and global reference framework. And this is, in fact, exactly what we would like to do and achieve via the harmonization of public sector accounting standards in Europe. So if we think back at the slide I have displayed from this EY study concerning the differences in public sector accounting and auditing practices in Europe, we realize what the situation in the EU currently is and how different all these financial reporting standards are. And this is exactly the picture we would like to change via the EPSAS project. So in the end, IPSAS should be understood as a sort of a European interpretation of IPSASs for the purposes of harmonizing standards, as I said, across and within member states in the Union. So the second thing is that if we really want to change things in the ground, we need standards with binding force. Otherwise, we will not really achieve the harmonization of financial reporting across Europe. And the key issue here is quite complex, because both for the purposes of general purpose financial reporting, as well for the purposes of statistical financial reporting, the key issue here is to make sure that all relevant events and transactions are recorded, they're recognized, and they are measured on the basis of comparable standards. And the next thing is that also the way that we are consolidating accounts must be also done on the basis of a comparable definition of control and a comparable way of defining the consolidation basis of the accounts. And this is a key issue in this project. So we have a lot to learn from the UK experience in this sense, and the way they go about consolidating the public sector accounts up to the general government accounts, to the whole of government accounts. And I think this is something that is particularly appealing to us, and we would like to see one day implemented a similar thing across, as I said, the European Union. So in the end, I think we will achieve a high degree of financial transparency. We would like to achieve comparability with the European Union, and I think which also be done using IPSASs as a reference for this European interpretation of public sector accounting standards. The other thing I would like to stress is that we are collaborating very closely with the IPSAS-B. We have been since years now observers at the IPSAS board, and also IPSAS-B and IPSAS-B members. They are present and they are contributing to our work and our discussions at the task forces and the working groups that Eurostat has put in place. So we are aimed, let's say, at ensuring the maximum possible coordination between the work carried out within the IPSAS-B and then at Eurostat within the task forces we have put in place. So now, as regards the reference to the PwC study on behalf of Eurostat, I would like to inform you that this study was published by Eurostat on our website, so it is accessible there, and I guess as soon as the slides will be available, you will get also the link to our website. The question if and which IPSAS standards are going to be adapted or changed, this is a question that we cannot answer for the time being. what we should understand is that this is a medium-term project. What we are trying to do now is to design the project in order to get this off the ground. And as I said, we'll need first to put in place the necessary governance structures and the necessary due process within which then these standards will be discussed and endorsed. The fact now that in the Commission study, as well done in the PwC study, the existing IPSA standards have been classified into these three groups. This doesn't mean that these standards, they are going indeed in the end to be altered or changed or revised. However, I must also say that this discussion cannot be predicted at this stage, because in the very end it will be also the national public sector accounting setters. They are our key partners. They are at the core of this discussion and the standard setting process, and it's only then and at the end of this process that this decision can be made.
I think Gerard was next.
Well, thank you very much. 2 points. The first point is, again, the role of accounting supreme audit institutions. Ministry of Finance compiles the figures. That's to the colleague of Bangladesh. Ministry of Finance compiles the figures, sends it to the Court of Audit. We scrutinize the figures. If we find errors, we change the figures. We audit the whole thing and send it to Parliament. So that's the way how we do it. But let me argue as a national expert as far as EPSAS is concerned, because of course I understand my African friends, but I tell you, I want to make clear why EPSAS is helpful. For instance, in my country, in Austria, we have these subnational governments, which until now didn't move to accruals. It was just the central government level. If I would tell them, move to accruals because IPSAS is wonderful, I don't know if they would be really willing to do it. If I tell them, move because the European Union, and we in Austria are a member of the European Union, the European Union will set these standards, and if you move in time, you have an advantage. I can use EPSAS as a as a tool against traditionalists, conservatives who want to stay with cash only. In other words, friends from Africa, have mercy with Europe. We need more time than you have needed. You are ahead of us. So let's take a bit of time. Now the gap between IPSAS and the situation, the average, not UK. UK is a front runner, but the gap between IPSAS and the average situation in Europe is like that. And if we could if we could make a move to make it small, it would be a big advantage. See it from that point of view.
Please, thank you. Riyadh, CEO.
Maybe our story in Abu Dhabi is slightly different. Some of us speak today like if you don't have IPSAS, like you don't have accounting in the country. So every government obviously has an accounting. Just now, how they want to move to a better accounting standard. So they have maybe their accounting policy or accounting manual. So the decision was for us is we want to do a better accounting. So we looked around and obviously we came across IPSAS, which is a generally accepted accounting standard, because this is why you move to accounting standard in the first place. It's not by building your own accounting standard. So we always believe in something what we call GAP in general, as you know, generally accepted accounting standard. So definitely we will always support a language that brings us all as an accountant now to speak one language. So we will always up to, so maybe I think for our colleagues in Europe, maybe because of they have so many also countries involved, the decision wasn't as easy as for us in Abu Dhabi. So maybe this is a phase that hopefully we would like to see them converting, hopefully, in the future also to IPSAS, so make also the languages much easier to speak on.
Alexander wants to add something.
Does it? It works. Thank you. We fully support this idea of globally accepted and comparable standards. But if we look again at what is the situation currently in the European Union, there are so many reforms that have been based on IPSAS or inspired from IPSAS. We have listened and followed today the example of Austria. There are many other national European standards that are based or inspired from IPSAS. Are they? Of course, this is extremely welcome from a financial transparency point of view, but the next question is, are they comparable? And the clear answer to this is that they are not comparable, despite the references to IPSAS and the fact that they have been derived out of IPSAS. And this is exactly what we are trying to fix. There is a twofold objective in this exercise. A is to increase the fiscal transparency, where public sector accounting does not really provide the information that we need for our own purposes and for general purpose financial reporting more generally. And the second key issue here is to harmonize the information that is provided via both, as I said, public sector accounting for general purpose financial reporting and statistical reporting as well. Thank you.
One more?
Obviously, we're not maybe here to debate this, but you know, there is a difference between accounting standard and accounting policies. So this is what you could always harmonize, is the accounting policies rather than accounting standard, which is usually driven from this. So I think always there is a room of harmony on any system by actually setting an accounting policy, because I do agree with you, as I mentioned also in my presentation, that IPSAS standard are not perfect, but definitely they are close enough when it comes to unification and also accountability and transparency as well. And that's what I would think, that is, you can always harmonize it through accounting policies.
So thank you so much. I think any good discussion answers some questions and gives some more questions for the next Congress, of course, not for this one. But what I got from this discussion, and it is the only remark I want to put between us and our lunch, is that accounting reform is always a matter of trade-off. That's the point. On one hand, we must acknowledge that the accounting reform path and the accounting systems resulting from that path have to be tailored to specific jurisdiction or country issues. On the other hand, there is an evident, a clear demand for harmonization. We cannot get around this point. There is a clear demand for harmonization and reduce undue differences between us. And it's difficult to dispute that IPSAS are becoming more and more a reference point for such an harmonization. I don't know if this can be a conclusion for today's discussion, but anyway, my feeling is that it leads us to the conclusion of this session. So may I ask you please to join me in thanking again the speakers and you all for this lively debate. Thank you so much.